welcome to the Ascending Thoughts Podcast. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the Honolulu area. Just kidding. We're in Lynchburg. All right. So today, we've got some special guests with us. I need to spit out my gum. This is stupid. All right. So, guys, this podcast today is...
Throw up the trash bin.
This podcast
Shoot it
is
in.
brought to you by Orbit.
or whatever gum I had in my pocket. All right, so full disclaimer today, guys. This podcast is going to be ridiculous because we got some special guests on with us today, along with Alex and Russ. That's who's presenting this, if you don't know, because it's only the second episode. So we got today with us Tony and Aaron. They'll have to say their names for you that aren't Tony and Aaron, because I only know them by Tony and Aaron at this point.
Yeah, you might otherwise know us as Danny and Freddy from the Men of Meanz Podcast.
Yep.
Thanks for having us on today.
Yes, thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
We enjoy it.
We are super excited today. We are trying to come at you live from the sketchy room that we're in.
I like it.
Yeah.
Or, later.
like it.
We're not.
It's not bad, man.
It's got some
not bad.
aesthetics. I mean,
it grows on you.
it grows on you.
Apple
grows
started
on you.
in
And it
a
definitely
garage.
points
Yeah.
out its own flaws to you.
Yeah.
Don't get in a fight in here. That will be dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't get in a fight in here. All right. So enough about that. Enough about that. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Russ, and he's got our question of the week for us today.
All right. So, question of the week. This is a toughie, guys. And this is another question, kind of like last week, that sort of everyone asks, as a Christian, but you hear it a lot more with young people and youth. And I think it's a great question. It's a tough question. So I thought we'd just kind of take a stab at it. The question is, how do I tell my friends about Jesus? So how do I tell my friends about Jesus?
That's a tough question, Russ.
It is.
I really don't. I don't think I have an answer for it this week.
You don't have an answer?
I don't know.
Maybe one of our guests would like to take a stab.
Hey, we both established last week that we're introverts, so I don't know how to tell my friends about Jesus.
Any thoughts?
Well, I think this is a good question to ask because, any type of discipleship, breaking the ice is probably the hardest part, and especially with friends that you already have a relationship with, and there's more built up in it just than you're kind of worried that if you bring it up it might break what you guys have already.
Yeah.
So one thing I would say would be you have to work at establishing a certain relationship before the question is even brought up. A friendship built upon honesty, trust, love, transparency between the two of you, where you feel that you can talk about things that are more personal, maybe a little more controversial, and that you can still be accepted along those terms. And once you show, your friend that you're there for them no matter what, they're more than likely are going to reciprocate, and then you can begin bringing up your faith more and more to the point where they're going to start noticing it in how you live your life, your actions. They might ask questions. You may not even have to bring up the topic, but then once you do, you're going to feel certain that this isn't going to make or break us in our friendship, and they're going to know that I'm coming from a place where I love them because they know how much this means to me.
Yeah. One thing that I think about too, I feel like people are kind of afraid to do it because of the, I don't know what you would call it, because of the whole idea of like evangelism and like trying to convert someone. But when you think about it, what you're really doing is you're just loving them, and you're just telling them what you believe to be true and what you believe to be the most important thing in your life. So don't think about it in terms of necessarily like trying to convert them or something like that. Think about it as trying to meet the needs that they have. And I think that's probably a good way to approach it. Is you think about, I believe that the gospel reaches to every point, everything that you go through. I think the gospel is the answer to the root of every problem. So when you think about it like that, think you're able to to kind of throw out the gospel or, talk about Jesus with anything,
Right.
and I think that Jesus was really a master at that. When you look at a story like the woman at the well, for example,
Absolutely.
he starts talking to her about water, and from there he builds it to relationships. He goes a little bit deeper, and then he says, I'm the only one that can fulfill that.
Right.
Yeah.
So he uses what she's doing and then engages her and then sees what her need is.
Right.
And then says, I'm the only one that can fill that. And so I think when you try to look at other people, start looking at their needs. Look at things that they're maybe struggling with, or things where you know that Jesus can really speak into their life. And I think that that's a good way to look at it.
Right. And, I've been in class all week this week. And, one of the things that we've talked about as far as leadership is going or goes is building relationships with people. And really, that's the way I would tell people about Christ. It's I think Francis of Assisi has this kind of probably misquoted quote floating around out there about, I don't know. I read.
Man,
I know we were talking about
name
Francis.
dropping here.
I'm just gonna drop some names. So no, but there was this thing like a long time ago or whatever. He said, preach Jesus, and if you have to, use words. And the whole point of that is, telling people about Christ by doing what Christ did instead of just saying, oh, well, Christ's going to save you, but you don't model what that looks like.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, there was a good quote. I forget. I'm gonna be honest. I forget the name of the guy who said it.
It was probably St. Francis of
But
Assisi.
no, it wasn't. It was actually from a.
Spitting straight fire.
Yeah, I read it from a book, and the guy basically said the same thing that Thomas asked of Jesus. That the people are asking of the church, and it's I won't believe unless I see your scars. And so in order for other people to believe, they have to be able to see it reflect. They have to be able to see us taking up the cross and loving and showing them our scars, the things that we do out of love for them. And that's what's going to get them to believe, because we can talk all day about how great the gospel is and all of this kind of stuff. But if we don't have lives that reflect that, and if we're not showing compassion and love towards them, then it's going to be, what does it say in Corinthians? It's like a clanging cymbal, right?
Yeah.
Is that I think it's in Corinthians.
Yeah.
Not love,
Yeah, if you don't have love, it's nothing. It's annoying to people, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that that's important. Do you guys have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I think kind of taking what we've said thus far, talking about, establishing those relationships, loving on those people. And then, Russ, when you were talking, what you did was you related it back to Scripture. You're saying that the Word of God can relate to anything, but here's where you can see it applied in God's Word specifically. And, especially looking at, like you said, where the gospel applies to other people's lives so you can apply it. One way is just, like you said, if you don't have love, it can be annoying. Like if I just came up to you and said, like, you're being wrong.
Exactly.
1 Corinthians 1-3, look it up.
Yeah.
That's not good. But if I came along beside you and said, look, I see this is something that you're struggling with. I struggle with this. Here's a passage that helped me through it.
Exactly.
And I mean,
And walking with
do you
them
have
through
any
it.
questions?
Right.
Can we, establish a dialogue about it? Make it feel as loving as it's supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
You might be the only example of the gospel that someone may ever have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And saying those things without commitment is the very opposite of what Jesus actually did.
Right.
He spoke to us and he preached to us, but what made it powerful was the commitment that went along with it. And I think that you have to be able to, and part of it is just deciphering what is effective and what the needs are. Like if people are, if you are doing good things and that's people are not responding to that, then maybe if they're blind, then maybe they need to hear something. Then maybe you need to say something. And if they're deaf, maybe you need to do something.
Right.
So if you're preaching and they're not responding to that, then maybe you need to actually do things.
Sorry, guys. We are
Fixing
having
my mic.
all sorts of technical difficulties today.
I was in the sweet spot earlier, man. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know.
here.
I don't know what's going on. Yeah.
Your mic is sad.
Hold on. It's y'all got so many names. I can't keep you straight. I know Tony,
Danny.
and then Dan.
Danny.
See, I keep thinking you're Freddy, and
Yeah.
all right, these guys got like 14 names. I got one name. So I keep trying to go between like their Men of Meanz names and then their real names, and then I get all confused. And then it's like, oh, you don't know who these people are? Mm-mm. Anyway, we're all sorts of messed up today, especially Russ's mic. Anyway.
Well,
I don't know where that was going.
I think that I don't know that we have much to add to that. It's
No.
a tough question,
I think
but
we
yeah.
answered,
Yeah, definitely. If you we'd love to hear your response. If you're out there listening and you have something to say, we'd love for you to comment on this. If you have
other questions, submit them to us. You can email us ascendingthoughts1@gmail.com, or you could leave it in a comment, and we'd love to answer it on a future podcast.
Yeah, and we're a lot better at answering questions on most days than today. Today's an exception. It's been a long week.
Can we get your address? I'd like to write a letter.
My address?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want my
Okay.
social security too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just in case I need to
Mother's maiden name.
start a bank account.
Start a bank account in a.
Co-sign on a house.
I'll get it to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Russ is probably not the one to get, college student and all.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It'd be
Actually, all of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
EDD, MBA.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Hey.
So we're gonna get back on track now.
Aaron, with this is, no pressure, but you need to get in the EDD program.
Join
No
the club,
pressure.
dude.
I
Come
know.
on.
Peer
Yeah.
pressure. Anyway, let's get back on track.
Alex is going to conduct a little author interview with a surprise guest.
Ooh, I wonder who the surprise guest is going to be. Let's see. He's walking through the door right now. Just kidding. He's Aaron. He's right here. All right. So, Aaron, I read your article this week, and I tend to not share a bunch of things unless I really super like them, or unless it's got my name attached, of course. Promoting my. I'm just kidding. I'm not that selfish. No, I tend to not
Promoting my brand.
I'm promoting my brand, guys. It's the Alex brand. I tell you.
It is great.
I tell you.
This is fact.
Aaron's saying it's great. It must be great.
No.
Anyway, so I loved what you did with your article. And by the way, Aaron's article is Gluttony, not just about portion size. And he talks a lot about how we look at food as kind of this thing that we like. I love food. I really love food. Love it so much. But with that, we look at food as kind of our sustenance when we shouldn't. I'm gonna let Aaron explain it because he would do a lot better job since he wrote pen to paper or
No, I like what you were doing.
pixel to pixel. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, you were doing a good job. Honestly, I had no idea what I was doing. It was my first blog post I ever did.
Dang, man.
I was just looking for inspiration, kind of like how we do it for the podcast. So I just got in the Word, and I was reading through C.S. Lewis's Screw Tape Letters. And if you haven't read it, you should go read it because it describes a conversation between two demons on how to basically convert a human or trap a human, take him away from God. But every chapter is dedicated to a different part of our sinful human nature. So it's kind of eye-opening and kind of convicting in a way, but at the same time, it shows God's faithfulness in pursuing us at the same time. So in this one chapter about gluttony, they talk about there are two forms of gluttony. And growing up, you're told gluttony is just don't overeat. I was always told to clear my plate. So I was I don't know what you want me to do.
Honestly,
You gave me all this
we don't
food.
even talk about gluttony in the church.
Yeah,
that much.
we don't.
Honestly, we really don't
We
even
don't
talk
talk
about
it.
How many times have you heard a sermon on gluttony?
Yeah. I mean, think about it.
know.
Think in our culture today, it's there's food everywhere. We just walked through the mosque. There were 5 different restaurants. Not saying that it has anything to do with it, but I'm just saying there's food everywhere. You go out here on the main strip, there's a restaurant right. There's restaurants right next to each other in a strip mall, and it's like, how much food do we need? We watch it. I follow a ton of Instagram accounts because I like watching people make it. I like watching people eat it. I'm like, so I was reading through this.
That's actually a little creepy.
Yeah, I was well, to each his own. No, but I was reading through this chapter, and it talked about the gluttony of delicacy and just the desire to have the food, and the desire can create all of these traits in the human being that they don't even realize. And it personally made me take a step back and look at how I view food and my own relationship with it. And if I was being honest with myself, I'm a glutton through and through. And looking at Paul talking about how gluttony is not just about food, but the food becomes an idol that becomes a direct indirect fight with God in our relationship. So God's not just fighting for your heart against you, but all the idols that you create. So that's kind of where it came from. But I'm glad you guys liked it. It was fun to write. I enjoyed it. I can't wait to write again.
Yeah, man. It's been doing really well on the site. I think people are really identifying with it.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I really identified it with it because I love watching. What are these shows?
Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives.
Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Man versus Food back in the day. Oh
my
man,
God.
that was a phenomenal show.
Ginormous Food now.
Yeah.
Shows dedicated to
like this massive, massive amounts of food. And then I loved watching Chopped Jr. Those shows are like Chopped and then Chopped Jr.
Chopped is beautiful.
Yeah, and then you get the kids on there making the food, and you're like, holy cow, I can barely make ramen, and these kids are making like, ratatouille. Well, I don't know any other fancy food, so.
That's good.
But no, man, like, so I super resonated with what you were saying, like, and it gave me pause and to make me think, am I doing these things because I love these things more than Jesus, or am I doing them because I'm actually hungry?
Right.
Yeah.
And am I using these things to fill a need and fill a void that Jesus should be filling instead of what the earth can provide?
Amen.
Yeah. I personally, I can't tell you how many days, not so much now maybe, but I used to, especially, after a day of school or whatever, just come home and you're so exhausted and, you get into the ice cream or get into, you're just eating for satisfaction basically. And not necessarily that's always a bad thing, but where is Jesus in that? Where is Jesus after your long day? Is the food taking the place of Jesus? Is it becoming an idol even? Yeah. Which that when you think about it in those terms, man, we're guilty.
Yeah.
And Moses, like, he went 40 days without eating because he was up on the mountain in the presence of the Lord. I mean. And how much do we say, oh, that's Old Testament, that doesn't apply to us? How do we know we wouldn't be in that place, if we actually delved into the Word?
Yeah. I think for me, I'm also a huge foodie and like a self-proclaimed. Like I used to I think it was in my Instagram bio once, foodie. You know what I mean? Like I just thought it was cool, but thank God for deliverance. But I just social media deliverance. But I think when I have fasted, when I have taken away that comfort, even from looking beyond food to social media and television, and certain types of music, I have felt so much better with my walk with Christ, and felt so much closer to Him, and I felt like there's been so much clarity. And I think just looking at food in a very different way, I think it just I just don't hear it. Like Russ was saying, I don't hear anyone talk about it. I know it's a sin, but it's just like no. Where is the background? Where is the word? Where is the scripture behind it? And I think I'm thankful for my boy Aaron, for Freddy, sorry, for putting that out there, because I think that's something that the church is just not talking about. We'll preach all day about grace and about faith, but there's people who struggle with gluttony, and that's a serious thing.
Yeah, and just a last thing here. I think that there's something to be said for, and something special about, even going a time depriving yourself of enjoyable things, even if they aren't bad necessarily, but just to fast. That's something that we do, the 30-day fat or the 40-hour famine, and we have all these fancy names for it that we do at certain points in the year, as a group or whatever. But how often do you fast as an individual, just for your, and without telling anybody about it? In fact, I could be wrong, but I think the Bible tells us, not to really say when we're doing these things, because we don't want to come across as sort of braggadocious about it. Yeah. And we want it to be a personal thing between us and God. But I think when we deprive ourselves and we give something up, we're taking on the likeness of Christ, who deprived himself of, of glory and power, at the right hand of God, to come down for us because he loves us. Yeah. And so when we fast and when we do that, we're doing what we're being Christ-like.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're being Christ-like.
I mean, you're never going to see your need as long as all your needs are being met.
Mm-hmm.
If you take that time to get away from those things that provide you that comfort that you automatically go to, like if I'm in public and I'm in like an awkward situation, immediately I grab my phone, and I realize that's a comfort. Yeah. That's become almost like a little idol for me when things are weird. Yeah. So like there have been times when I left my phone at home and I didn't take it with me the one day, and the amount of times I stuck my hand in an empty pocket was alarming. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I still struggle with my phone, but it's just realizing that there are these areas that we gravitate toward because it just fills a need in our hearts that we're not getting from the source of where we should be getting it from, which is Christ and him crucified. Right. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the motivation behind everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good for you.
Thanks, man.
Proud of you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I probably need to try that phone thing, for real. Yeah. I do that all the time because, like, I don't want to talk to people. I got some articles to read on my phone. Yeah. But the good stuff. So, Russ, I think we're going to move on to you, buddy. You wanted to talk a little bit about one of our other articles of this week. This is a big week for us, really, because we've got all of our stuff really going live, man. More so
every single day we had one coming out, so it's been awesome.
Yeah, so this is kind of our inaugural week, so to speak.
Yeah,
but the one you want to talk about this week was "His Scars Say You're Beautiful" by Cara Glynn.
Yeah. It could be like a Hill song or something. Yeah, right. Yeah,
His scars say you're beautiful. I'm not in Hillsong, guys.
Just kidding. For real though. And honestly, when I read the title, it's one of those titles that kind of like sends shivers up your spine because you hear that and you're like, oh man, that's so true, and just the way it's worded, almost like a paradox. He's scarred, but it's because he believes that you're beautiful. And basically, the article talks about, it's basically just the gospel message, and it talks about how because of Christ we're made righteous, and because of what he did for us, that shows how much he loves us. And she talked a little bit about even in the Old Testament, the Passover lamb, and how they smeared the blood on the doorways, so that when they saw the blood of the lamb, the angel of death saw the blood of the lamb passed over. Right. And she said, that's a foreshadowing of Jesus and what his blood does for us. Right. And it's because, we're so valued. And it just really stood out to me. I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said, just introducing it as like it's this beautiful paradox between wounds and beauty. But I appreciated the article. Like you said, it was just a straight up depiction of the gospel. And if you look at Jesus' life, everything that the Lord has done since the beginning has been a paradox. King came down as a baby. Yeah. He suffered so that we wouldn't have to suffer. Mm-hmm. He took this symbol of radical discrimination and hate and turned it into a symbol of glory and life. And life. Yeah. So, I completely agree with the article. I think that the thing about Christ and the thing is that like he had to be marred so that we as marred and broken people could become whole. Yeah. So I love it.
One thing that I would kind of like to add, just thinking about it, is
Man, there's a lot of people that struggle with self-worth and sort of body image and things like that. Even people that do self-harm. And that honestly, that's one of the things that I thought about. And like, how powerful is that, especially for those people to hear that Jesus was scarred because he thinks that you're beautiful. And if anyone out there is listening, I don't know who you are or whatever, but man, like, just let that truth sink in, honestly. And just believe that, because it's true that the God of the universe loved you so much that he thought you were worth so much that he would come from perfection and die, and be scarred. And not only that, here's something else that I found really interesting. So at the resurrection of the dead, we believe in the resurrection of the dead. Hey. Everyone comes, everyone basically comes back to life. And so no matter how you died, like there's some people that died horrible deaths, but you come back and your body is perfect. But the only being that is going to have marks on them for eternity is Jesus. His marks don't go away. And so we come back as whole people, no matter what, our scars are gone, everything is perfected, but Jesus is always going to have his scars. And I just think that is a really, really powerful thing to think about. That Jesus would be scarred for eternity. Yeah, and that's an awesome thought. And Russ, you and I were talking today, kind of in preparation for this podcast, just about some of the articles of the week. Some, not just the ones that our contributors have written and stuff, but some of the ones on the top 10 of the week. And there was one on self image and self-perception and body image and all that. It's a big topic out there. It's a huge topic, and I really wish I'd read more into it before today to really get into it and talk about it more. But I mean, that's such an important issue that so many people struggle with, more than you'd even think, more than you could even look around and realize that maybe these people would struggle with body image. But it's such a good gospel truth that we can hear that, and that Christ, he is scarred so that we're beautiful. And again, let that truth sink in today. I think that's phenomenal. Well, hey, speaking of the popular on the web, nice segue, Alex. Nice segue. Yeah, I wish I could make it a little bit more smooth and talk about the actual, the body image article. But of course, I'm going to talk about Wonder Woman. So let's hear about Wonder Woman. Yeah, what's she up to? Hey. All right, hey, Wonder Woman, what you doing, girl? Diana of Thermosia. I'm just kidding. I don't know her. We're not like best friends. But I mean, I like Wonder Woman. She's neat. But I don't know. She cool. She cool, girl. All right. All right. So I went to watch Wonder Woman Monday night of this week, and for those that haven't seen it yet, no spoilers here. Come on. No, there's no. Oh well, there's good and bad parts, and I'm a little bit of a film snob, so I'm probably not gonna. I've got to get my Grey Poop on when I go to the theaters. I appreciate the film snobs though, because I think it's something I aspire to be, but I really like anything. Yeah, and I like most everything too, but all things aside, the things that I probably didn't like were kind of story based and all that. But I think the character of Wonder Woman in this film was phenomenal. But really, what I want to talk about today was an article on the Gospel Coalition. We're kind of stuck on the Gospel Coalition for the last couple of weeks on our popular on the web. Bad to be stuck on. Yeah, not at all. But the Gospel Coalition, they published an article called "Wonder Woman: A Peculiar and Unexpected Heroine." It's by Gina D'Alfonso. I probably mispronounced her name like Reed's last week, but at least she's not going to know me personally. How do you pronounce Reed's name? I'm not even going to try it. Try it. Nope. Okay. Eliath. Nope. Dang it. Okay, all last week. I can't. Okay, whatever. Anyway, so she goes into it. She talks a little bit about Wonder Woman and how she was kind of this unexpected heroine. And she also talks a little bit about like the battle of the sexes that goes on. And I'm probably like the least qualified person to talk about anything related to gender, whatever. Just because I'm just this random dude. I'm this redneck dude. So I'm like the least qualified, but I'm going to do it anyway.
and she brings up a lot of good points that I really agree with. That Wonder Woman, she's this great role model for women, and not that she's incorruptible, that she's all powerful, that she's dominating men, but that she's also sitting at the table with men. And she's not any better, she's not any worse. She's with men, working alongside them. And she asserts that Wonder Woman isn't an agent of dominion over one or the other, but that the battle of the sexes is not one that should be. It implies that one's got to win, one's got to lose, and at the end of the day, that's not a Christ-like attitude to have, because that's not how Christ made us. Christ made us to work together, not to dominate one or the other, and that is actually sin, and he defines that as sin because a husband is to love his wife as Christ loves the church, and Christ gave his life for the church. So. Gave his life for the bride, so and in that sense, that kind of sets up the standard for men. But she also points out a point that I took away from the movie, and that was about a character called Dr. Poison. I'm not going to expose any more about her, but like she's the flip. Yeah, she's a woman. I did expose that, but she's a woman, and she's kind of the flip of Wonder Woman. Okay, so she's one of these corruptible, ambitious women that goes on and does everything she can to promote her name and to do for her, and in that she loses sight of what's good in the end. Whereas Diana or Wonder Woman, she keeps hold that love is the thing that holds everything together, and while she still struggles with what that means, she at the end of the day is fighting for all those good things. But Dr. Poison, she does not. I'm trying to not go into too many spoilers. So it's an interesting dichotomy with those two. But I think I'm kind of diverging a little bit. It's interesting to look at that. And I think the biggest takeaway from this article for me was looking at that battle of the sexes piece that she wrote at the end. And if you haven't read it, go check it out. I think Gina did a wonderful job on the Gospel Coalition of really breaking this down. And if you haven't seen Wonder Woman, we're not paid any way by Wonder Woman Incorporated. I'm just kidding. It's DC Comics or whoever's distributing it, whatever. But yeah, go see it. It's well worth a watch because there's some really redeemable stuff in there. And I get too picky sometimes about films, so just go watch it. But yeah, so check out that article. Go watch the movie. Tell us what you think. Like us on Instagram. I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, do like us on Instagram.
I did want to say something more general. I do think it's really neat how you can find gospel elements in secular movies. Like the whole narrative of good and bad and
light versus dark.
Yeah. I forget who it is. Is it Tolkien, or it might be Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien, that talks about how Jesus is, the gospel is basically like the true fairy tale. Yeah. And there's something about these stories that evokes these emotions in us that we want it to be, we get so invested in it. There's just something about it, almost that we can't really identify. But the gospel is the truth of that, Yeah. And I just think that is so cool. So I'm really glad that they wrote that article and were able to kind of pick out some of the aspects of that movie that show the gospel.
Yeah, so we'd love to hear your comments on that movie, comments on other articles of the week. Again, we've mentioned a few, but if you have any to look out for, just let us know. With that, I want to hand it over to Russ. He's got a few announcements upcoming for this week.
So again, like you said, this past week we had our first week of the guest contributors, and I'd say definitely huge success. It was awesome. I personally enjoyed reading all the articles. They were all fantastic. So if you have not had a chance, definitely go onto our site and check those out if you can. Next week we have a whole new batch of contributors coming up. Tony, are you going to be able to write, or I don't know if I forget when you're scheduled or if you're able to write or not, but you might be. Might be. Next week, the 20s? Are we in the 20s next week? Man,
it's the week after.
Going by quick, or maybe you're the week after. I don't know. Tony's gonna be writing at some point here in the future. I don't know, but yeah. So we have several people that are gonna be writing next week. A couple of which I've read early drafts, and they're really good. Both that I've read have been really good. So we are looking forward to that. Don't want to give too much away, but stay tuned.
Yeah, absolutely, Russ. And I'm with you there, dude. I've read all the articles that have come across. Especially like Reed's from last week. Aaron's, of course. I talked about that kind of glowingly about. Sure, I'm going to use words today.
Glowingly.
Yeah, why not?
I like
it. Who knows? I'll probably use. Yeah, sure. But no, like for real, like though we've got some like super cool. We got some super cool people contributing, and they're doing really well. And I'm just so impressed and so humbled to be a part of such a great team that we're getting we have the ability to come together and do all this and really serve Christ in all this and really let our gift shine for Him. But it's awesome. I really highly suggest everybody check out every week, every day if you can, all the cool stuff that's going on. Not even just my stuff. I'm not all that much into self promotion. Ha ha. So look for Andrew DiNardo's post, Sammy Lavoie, Sammy L as I like to call her, Tony sometime, or Danny. Look for a post from Danny, not Tony. Who knows? Just
we'll get you in at some point.
We'll get you in.
We'll
there.
fit you in.
And then Cara Glynn's coming up too. So again, guys, if you ever want to contact us, reach out to us at ascendingthoughts1@gmail.com. Go to our website at ascendingthoughtsblog.wordpress.com. Reach out to us there. If you have any questions about videos that you want to submit to us, or you want to have an idea for a video, send an email to ascendingthoughtsvideo@gmail.com. Again, check out our podcast on SoundCloud. We have an account there at Ascending Thoughts Podcast.
Ascending Thoughts
Podcast. And also check out Men of Meanz Podcast. We've got the guys.
Y'all want to tell us where?
We've got the guys from Men of Meanz in here today.
Yeah. Before we do that, I just want to affirm you guys. We think what you guys are doing is great. Yeah. Just seeing the way that you guys have lined everybody up, getting all these contributors, and creating all this new and having a spot for all this new content is really cool to see. So just thank you guys for doing that and being faithful and doing that. And you can find Danny and Freddy of the Men of Meanz Podcast on SoundCloud. We're on iTunes. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gmail, and every Friday at 6 p.m. we are on Ramp Radio. You can get the Ramp Radio app, or sometimes we stream it live. So, thanks for having us on today, guys.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's Men of Meanz with a Z. Mm-hmm. And there's a upcoming video soon with the Men of Meanz, an interview thing, and it's super cool.
Exclusive
interview. What?
I like the sound effect.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm not great at it, but we do it anyway because it's fun. So I think, is that it for us, guys? Tony?
I think that about wraps it up.
All hearts and minds are clear.
Hey.
Glory.
In the morning at the ramp, I got the five.
All right, guys. So tune in to us next week. It's going to be me, Alex, and Tony/Danny next week on the podcast. Ooh. It's going to be Danny and I taking over for the next couple of weeks. Russ is leaving us, so it's going to be. It's going to be like the most. He's abandoning us. He's jumping ship. But anyway, he'll be back in a couple weeks. He's got a few trips to go on, so it's going to be me and Tony. I keep wanting to call it Danny or Freddy or whatever. It's so confusing. We'll get it together. I'm going to come up with a new name too. Yeah. So listen to us next week. Look for a video on YouTube. Look for our podcast on SoundCloud, and we'll check you next week. Peace.